haven't had a briefing in a very long time, but I'm happy to see faces that I know, colleagues that I know from the media fraternity. We thought we should call you this morning to have this briefing. The Secretary General, Honorable Raphael Nakachinda, will be addressing you just to look at pertinent national matters. Without much ado, let me take this very rare privilege, honor, and opportunity to call upon the Secretary General. As I do so, I recognize our member of the Central Committee, General Kajila, who is with us, with the Secretary General. Let me take this opportunity once again to call upon the Secretary General to address the Secretary General, sir.
Thank you very much. Colleagues from the media, good morning and you're welcome. Allow me to recognize the presence of Comrade General Kazira, who's with me this morning, Media Director, Comrade Edwin Rufakelo, and all other members of Patriotic Front that are present. We have called this press briefing to comment on various issues affecting both the state of our party, the mighty Patriotic Front, and our great nation, Zambia. Allow me to begin by briefing the nation through you that a Central Committee meeting, which was chaired by our party president, Dr. Edgar Chagwalungu, released, as it were, a communique for the details of the resolutions of the meeting. But I must say that the leadership, as we met as Central Committee, welcomed the formation of the United Quach Alliance, and the Central Committee affirmed its earlier stance that collaboration with other political parties and social formations on matters of common interest was inevitable to establish a critical mass and front to help defeat this disastrous government of UPND in 2026. The Central Committee meeting also dissolved the Eastern Province Committee, and a new committee was set up, led by our new provincial chairman or chairperson, Mr. Joseph Makukula, with Lundazi MP Honorable Brenda Nyerenda Chisopa as vice chairperson of the province, the provincial secretary being Honorable Peter Piri, and Mr. Rizwani Patel was also appointed as vice provincial secretary. And obviously the full complement through the communique is out there for everybody to take note. The meeting also appointed, through the president, Mr. Omar Munsanje to succeed the grandson of the soil, the late Mr. Leonard Siachona, may he so rest in peace, as acting chairperson for Southern Province. And Mr. Justin Mutale was also appointed as acting provincial chairperson for Muchinga Province. You will find the rest of the details in the communique. Let me come to the state of the nation. Our country, Zambia, is in a deep crisis, facing economic crisis, rising inflation rate, volatile exchange rate, the highest cost of living in recent memories, health outbreaks such as cholera, anthrax, typhoid, dysentery, malaria, and syphilis outbreaks that have increased. Sadly, despite these deep crises facing the country, Ms. Hakainde Hichilema's posture is of indifference, and his priorities clearly are elsewhere. He is preoccupied to destroy the opposition and his critics. As Patriotic Front, and I believe all Zambians, we are concerned at the impunity, the level of impunity with which corruption is flourishing and the rate of corruption dues under the government of Ms. Hakainde Hichilema. All major decisions of the country in every sector are driven by an evil sense of corruption and driven by a desperate quest by Mr. Hichilema to hold on to power beyond 2026. We have noted that the return of KCM to vendetta was driven by corruption. We have demanded for government to publish this fraudulent agreement between ZCCM, IH, and vendetta. At one time, government engaged in lies by stating that the mine was returned on the word of mouth and a gentleman's agreement. But we all know a wicked agreement was signed, and we demand for its publication. This government thrives in lies. A few days ago, I'm sure you have seen videos of an interview conducted by a young lady, Chipo Mwanawasa, who has also been recruited on the crusade of trading lies, especially with the international media. And we pray that the international media will not continue to exhibit some gullibleness in analyzing the information that is given to them by these who are in government. She goes on to lie that when they took over government, the GDP of the country was at $18 billion, which is a total lie. I mean, data is there for everybody to see. At the time that Patriotic Front was taking over government, the GDP was somewhere in the range of $12 to $15 billion. At the time that we were leaving office in 2021, we were somewhere above $27 billion, as our GDP, to which even Dr. Msokotwani confirmed. But alas, they are lying to those who relish the idea to be entertained to lies. And they even want to claim that they have been, posting a growth of 5.7 of GDP. Our demand is that this young lady and the entire government must apologize for the misinformation that they are churning out. And if there was any morality actually in this government, that young lady, that girl would have resigned by today because of the misinformation she was spreading. As it were, similarly, the deal between ZCCM IH and an investor purporting to be from the United Arab Emirates is shrouded in secrecy. An open tender process to get an equity partner from the shortlisted companies that included one from China, or two from China and one from South Africa, was abandoned at the last minute in very strange circumstances. ZCCM IH was made to accept a company with no known mining experience called International Resource Holdings, IRH. This transaction involving the sale of 51% shareholding of ZCCM-IH shares into Mopani Copper Mines required approval from Parliament as stipulated in Article 210, Sub-Article 2. President Hichilema ignored this process with impunity. What was done is an offense and abrogation of the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia, which is the supreme law of this land. And Mr. Hichilema is liable to impeachment. Is liable to impeachment. This man has committed many offenses that the only recourse is for him to be impeached. We are also concerned that a huge transaction fees amounting to $15 million paid to the advisors, Rothschild Company and Baker McKenzie. This is a transaction that could have been done by local lawyers and financial firms. Why we are paying foreigners, especially those that are known to be associated with the president, we can only speculate. Similar deals have been characterized by corruption, whether it is the purchase of fertilizer. We all know from the very beginning of their journey in government, the $50 million deal that was shrouded in corruption, and the subsequent deals. Obviously, the purchase of oil, we all know, medicine, and equipments, all shrouded in single sourcing or direct bidding. All these processes have been abused and has become the normal way of procurement under Mr. Hichilema. Declaration of a state of disaster and the begging of $900 million by Mr. Hichilema. The declaration of the state of disaster is part of the leadership disaster that this country is facing. Mr. Hichilema's leadership failures has made him the central figure of the significant failures that the country has suffered from time immemorial, or at least the record cannot be compared to any. Imagine he exported the entire national strategic maize reserve, the Patriotic Front left of 1.5 metric tons, that we had left in the reserves. Due to his appetite and his colleagues to engage in corrupt practices. Corruption and insufficiencies have pledged the farmer into, they have pledged them into support, the FISIP with fertilizer arriving rate or not enough maize in the reserves. We should have preserved that maize in preparation for days or years like this one. Mr. Hichilema has given away any domestic resource by granting unfair incentives to the mining sector, revenues that should have, gone towards, our treasury and servicing our people, especially in the social sector. Let me talk about the shrinking democratic space. It's almost 3 years, and the opposition cannot be allowed to hold public rallies, protests, or demonstrations of any form or public processions. Now we are even being stopped from going to church. His Excellency, the President of Patriotic Front and the 6th President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Edgar Chagwalungu, went to attend church on the Copper Belt just a few days ago. Up to today, the host reverend of that particular church and any place that they suspect the president went to, the police and the intelligence have continued to harass and interrogate both the reverends, the pastors, as well as the lodge owners, where it is suspected that he may have either, stopped over for a snack or to interact with, people. That is, unfortunately, what the Zambian people and the opposition are being subjected to. The continued arrests and harassment of senior members of the opposition to instill fear and intimidation and silence critical voices is what this government is determined to do. Remember, a few weeks ago, the president went to force himself as a guest at a Komboka traditional ceremony. When they arrived at the airport, Zambians and the opposition were subjected to unwarranted threats and insults. One after the other, Honorable Mulupi, Mwaliteta, clearly under the instruction of Misaka in the HLM, took to the podium, instructing the youths of UPND through Riswaniso that begin to sort out those who are criticizing President Aka and HLM. They were openly proposing violence, especially against Patriotic Front. We have always said, even when we were in government, that the most violent political party in the Republic of Zambia is the UPND. We may have had a few cadres as a Patriotic Front that will be walking around the street singing and so on, but they were not as violent as the UPND are and were. I'm sure you all remember the Mapatiza formula. You remember most of the incidences where violence occurred during either by-elections or political processions. They were initiated, perpetuated by the UPND. And they intend to continue using violence as a means of perpetuating their stay in government. The harassment and arrest of persons deemed to be close to the Zambia 6th president, Dr. Edgar Chagwalungu, to attempt to isolate the former president is one of the schemes that we know these people are perpetuating. The beating and torture of critics, as in the case of, for example, Rizwan Patel, who was tortured by the police, and also Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, who was equally beaten and tortured by the police. The attacks and threats against the media. Unfortunately, it's not only the opposition political parties that are under threat. The media equally is under threat. President Hichilem has also concentrated his schemes to erode democratic institutions using threats and tribal appointments. He now controls parliament. He controls the judiciary and associated institutions. Judges can now be fired at his whims. Parliament is now a joke, with freedom of expression heavily curtailed, and the People's House is now Nelly Muti's backyard. International organizations have confirmed this and other human rights abuses being perpetuated by Mr. Hichilema's government, including the latest report by the Human Rights Watch. We are aware also of the dirty schemes being perpetuated to rig the 2026 elections, using state institutions such as the Zambia Information Technology Authority, ZICTA. We are aware of the abuse of the National Registration Department and also the Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ, and the Zambia Police. We are aware of the page being done to positions of council secretaries and town clerks by local government commission, service commission chairperson Axon Sejan, a non-UPND cadre and extremist, You remember, this is the man who was saying only a Tonga can take over from Mazoka. Now he has been awarded, the chairmanship of the Local Government Service Commission, which has become an abattoir of slaughtering the careers of qualified personnel in the local government, among officers in the local government. Sejan's counterpart, Chore Beani, at Public Service Commission, has also continued to page the civil service. They have packed over 400 qualified persons at Public Service Management Division, PSMD. The appointment of well-known cadres at ECZ in the chairperson, Mwangarazanomis, McDonald Chipenzi, all non-UPND cadres as commissioners, and the Chief Electoral Officer, Brown Kasalo, remains a serious concern to us, the Patriotic Front, and we also believe to the Zambian people. The recent tender to print ballots that was abruptly cancelled at ECZ is also of great concern. It is clear that President Hichilema knows that he has already lost the mass popularity and is determined to stay in power using underhand methods and illegal methods. Look at what he attempted to do, or what he did in Kabushi and Kwacha. He believes that was a legitimate test and he wants it to be implemented at national level. Look at what he has attempted to sponsor in Patriotic Front to try and create factions. The only good thing is that the Zambian people and the members of Patriotic Front have been resilient to reject those schemes, and it has become very clear that that project has collapsed. The confusion that he wanted to export into Patriotic Front has gone back to Community House and has gone back to State House, and they are quarreling by themselves. And for us who continue to reorganize and mobilize the party and getting ready for 2026. We call upon Zambians to reject these machinations and to help restore democracy in Zambia by waking up. May we all wake up. May we all, as the mantra has been said, ukani. It is clear that Zambians have to resolve to rescue themselves from this disastrous leadership and gang of criminals and liars. If Mr. Nakachinda Hichilema had any sense of decency, by now he would have resigned. But as it were, since that has eluded him, we have to deal with him and endure his bad leadership for another 1 year and some months. And we call upon the Zambian people, may we work together in making sure that the resolve you have made and we have made to retire Mr. Nakachinda Hichilema completely, not only from politics, but also to send him back to where I think he deserves to go, and competently so, to his farm, so he can look after animals, because looking after animals cannot be compared or equal looking after human beings. With that, thank you very much, and may God bless you.
So we've come to the end of the morning briefing. As usual, if there are any questions relating to what the Secretary General has alluded to, or probably anything that might be burning, this is your moment. You just tell us your name and your institution that you represent. We rarely have this privilege to have briefings at Secretariat, so this is your moment to ask questions. You've been asking me, when are we going to have a briefing? When are we going to have a briefing? Now we have one. The Secretary General is here. Ask him questions, as long as they are pertinent and in relation to what he has said. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Wamba Muda.
I'm good.
Very good.
There's two.
Wandambile inaya kwa.
Your name and your institution?
Dhaka.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What is the status quo with Mausama and the PM? And also, maybe you may comment on the registrations of the registrations that are happening of foreign nationals for Mozambique.
We can take 2 more questions, if there are any, so that the Secretary General can able to answer them. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm Blessings, Uganda County. I understand that the Patriotic Front is an active member of the United Watch Alliance, and when President Lungu announced he's coming back into active politics, he did indicate and made an appeal to all the opposition political parties to join hands with him to restore what he termed the shrinking democratic space in the country. I want to find out why has it taken him long to convince the Socialist Party to join Africa?
We can take 1 more question. Then I'll allow the Secretary General to. Okay, we'll come back. We can. Yes, yes, sir.
I think that a general comment on the loss for the just ended by-elections. Uka had joined hands with some of the presidential alliance members, but none of them won any seat. I wanted to find out how do you weigh
before we take another set of questions. Secretary General, sir, we want to welcome our member of the Central Committee, Reverend Godfrida Sumaili. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you
to
so
this
much.
morning briefing. Thank you. And I also didn't welcome my brother, MCC, who is here with us this morning. We want to welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
To the press briefing.
Okay, Mr. Dhaka Edwin, status quo with Mausamba. These are matters which are in court, but we can assure you they will soon be resolved. And the Mausamba saga will be a thing of the past. Like I said in my statement, the attempt by Nakachinda to try and export confusion into Patriotic Front has failed lamentably. And I think all Zambians know that is and was his project. The same way he has failed to govern, he has failed even in his criminal activities of wanting to destroy Patriotic Front. By God's grace and the resilience of members of Patriotic Front, PF remains strong, and that minor irritation will definitely be dealt with, and it will be dealt with very soon. The registration of Zambians as voters in Mozambique and other countries, we have condemned, and we want to take this opportunity through this question to ask Nakachinda to stop what he is doing. If there are laws in Mozambique to allow Mozambicans that are in the diaspora to vote, the registration is expected to be conducted at their embassy. But what is happening in this country is that actually Nakachinda, under his nose, he is supervising the registration of voters in compounds, most of which are Zambians, I think with the idea that possibly they can be given an opportunity to go and vote in Mozambique. That is criminal. It should not be tolerated. And we call upon law enforcement agencies to take these matters seriously, because in so doing, we are also risking the security of this country. Mr. Blessing Mkandawire, you're asking why it has taken us too long to convince the Socialist Party to join UCA. I don't think we are in the business of wanting to convince anyone. What we have presented as UCA members is a cause for which we believe will be able to answer to the needs of the Zambian people. And all those who are like-minded and are passionate and patriotic enough in wanting to solve the crisis and disaster that we have on our hands of this disastrous government of UPND, to make sure that by 2026 these people leave the stage, because the damage they have so far caused, none of us can imagine what would happen if they continued beyond 2026. So it's not about convincing Socialist Party or any other political party. It's about them being persuaded and carrying the same conviction that we carry, that in working together we achieve more than in working in isolation. So for us, the UCA doors are still open, and for everyone that sees that that's a route to take, they are welcome to join. And they will be given an equal chance to participate in the process of growing this people's movement, and also, offering some of their best players in those respective political parties, so that we can form a team that when the Zambian people decide to give us a chance, which decision I think has already been made, to govern, we will not be doing takataka and chipante-pante like Misaka Inde Ichirema is doing today. So we are not convincing anybody. We are basically just casting the vision, presenting a cause that requires the participation of everybody, and those who are persuaded with that cause, they join and we move together. The performance of in the by-elections. First of all, we all live in the same environment. Arising from the confusion sponsored by UPND through Mausampa, and the criminal moves that were made to even change office bearers. You know how the registrar at the Registrar of Society the chief registrar was hounded out of office for wanting to do the right thing. So the ECZ has also donated on themselves a mandate or powers they don't have to start being the ones to determine who should do file nomination, and now they're even demanding to have specific signatures on nomination or adoption certificates. It has never happened. The reason why the Constitution provides that when you file nominations, anyone who's aggrieved can go to court to challenge that nomination 14 days after the nomination is because if, for example, somebody has not been properly adopted, it's incumbent on the parties that are aggrieved to go to court. Now, the ECZ cannot become the court now to start determining who has filed nomination properly or not. All that is basically abrogating the law. As Patriotic Front, we have been disfranchised from participating in these by-elections because of the criminality being perpetuated by ECZ and the criminality that is being perpetuated by UPND. But the days to account and to recon are fast approaching for everybody, including Misaka Inde Ichirema. This that is going on will not go on forever, because we know the Zambian people are determined to correct the rot that Misaka Inde Ichirema has come with. So don't look at the results of these by-elections as something that should speak to whether UPND is popular or not. It is basically a result of those criminal activities which we are sorting out.
I'm sure we haven't missed any questions from those set of questions that were asked. Yes, sir? we can take maybe a last round of questions.
Good morning.
Good morning. And there are no ladies
Your
with
name,
questions.
institution.
My name is Matthew, and I come from Hot FM. Mine is just to have your thoughts on the quarter that has continued to rise. And also, you seem to be imposing the former president to stand for 2026. Because there are concerns coming from the members of the public to say the former president has had his own time. So would you just comment on that aspect to say you are imposing the former president to stand while his time is done? Thank you so much.
Joseph?
Yeah, good morning, Honorable.
Morning, morning, Mr.
Joseph. I wear Solid hats, representing the Springtime newspaper, as well as the Rainbow newspapers. My question is much more than from the other guy. My question is, last year, your members, they applied for presidential candidates, about 10 or 11, if I'm not mistaken. My question is, when are you going to hold your convention to elect the president of the Patriotic Fund? Second question is, your former president, Edgar Chagwarungu, has come back on the scene. It was Saturday or Friday, you had a convention, you had a meeting somewhere. How is he? Is he also going to apply as one of the candidates to stand as presidential candidate for the Patriotic Front? What is your comment?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Honorable. My name is Elias from BMTV. My first question goes to you is that PF was in government for some years, and people had its own test. They missed what was happening, and they saw everything. So, what is your new strategy or plan that you're having for the Zambian people to really trust you? That if you are given a chance in practices, you will become different of what they thought it was. Then the second question is, in your speech, you are in the area that the UPND, they are the most party which have violent cadres than PF. Maybe I would like you to confirm that one, because so many questions have been coming from the general public since the 2021 election that PF, their bad side was on the cadres. That's what made them to lose the election, because they have taken most places that were supposed to be led by government, and so it's like they had no power to control on cadres. So I want also to comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I saw a hand behind there. Can we have just the last question so that we can make conclusions also? If there are 2 or 3 questions you want to ask, cement them into one so that the Secretary General can be able to answer them. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
I'm Joseph Chimba from the grassroots media. Since the Patriotic Front lost power, we have never seen the campaign managers, those who are campaigning in all the provinces, seeing them coming together for the benefits of the PF. When are you going to call those people who are the campaign managers for Patriotic Front to bring the
Secretary General.
Thank you very much. I'll start with Mr. Chishim. First of all, I think he's more of an affiliate of Patriotic Front. And I would answer your question in chambers, because I think those are matters that are internal and we should be able to address them. Mr. Matthews, the Kwacha will not be able to gain strength because the UPND and Mr. Ichlema, the same way he participated in wiping away our industrial base during privatization. It looks like they have even heightened that approach now that he's president and in government. What gives strength to a local currency is productivity. You can never have your currency, strong if you are import dependent. Patriotic Front was determined. After putting up infrastructure, the road network was sorted out, because now Zambia is not, as it used to be called, a landlocked country. It's now a land-linked country because of the infrastructure, the road infrastructure I've put in place. The next phase was to start putting up industries according to the strengths and opportunities that lie in each province. We started with Northwestern Province to put up a fruit processing plant. It is initiatives of that nature that will guarantee that your currency is strong, because as you export to your neighboring countries and so on, the products that you are producing, it automatically begins to bring in forex, and it strengthens your local currency. The board decision that we made as PF under the leadership of President Edgar Chagalungu, when those who were running Mopani wanted to twist and blackmail us by saying they are going to retrench 3,500 miners, we said, please give that mine to us. Since you are saying that you have continued to post losses, we took over Mopani 100%. And Mopani was supposed to be a mirror mine that as we run it as a people, as Zambians, it also helps us to understand why most of the mines that are running in this country for years keep on saying that they're running on a loss, but they never vacate that business. How can somebody run a business for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years on a loss, but they never vacate? But as it were, the few years until recently when, UPND has decided again to take that mine to foreigners, and we know that they have interest in that transaction, we were posting profit. That mine was going to help us generate forex enough to strengthen the local currency. Of course, those are economic analysis, but I can tell you, without productivity, your currency can never, be strong, especially when you are dependent on foreigners to feed you, to clothe you, to do everything for you. As we sit here, there's nothing that we are using which is produced locally. So how can your local currency be strong? And then you have a government that is looking to foreigners in everything, and basically advancing the interests of foreigners other than the local people. You also asked to say, you seem to be imposing President Edgar Chagalungu on the Zambian people because they are concerns from some stakeholders, I don't know, or people of Zambia. I'm actually wondering whether we are in the same, we are living in the same country, or we are living in different countries. I am sure we have all heard how the Zambian people have been comparing the performance of Hakainde Hichilema, the disastrous performance of Hakainde Hichilema, and that of President Edgar Chagalungu. And the Zambian people are beginning to sing Arebwele Rapo song louder each day that passes. In Bemba they say, Akananaka weme, kala ilombelo muchele. We don't have to impose President Lungu on the Zambian people. It is the Zambian people themselves who are saying, I think he was better off than this one who is in government. President Edgar Chagalungu and Patriotic Front, also responding to what Elias was trying to say, suffered at the hand of the propaganda machinery of UPND. And I can tell you that propaganda machinery was not only established by UPND, they also had very powerful foreign entities that put up that machinery that was selling a narrative that, President Lungu was not, as it were, was not doing anything, and all kinds of things, falsehoods actually, which now have been proven to be false. And the Zambian people can see through. The Zambian people can also see that the UPND came into government through lies, and they have continued to try and govern and perpetuate their stay in government through lies. I just gave you an example of a young lady who has also been recruited into lies, Chipo Mwanawasa, who was trying to lie that the GDP has grown under UPND from $18 billion to 27. Fantastic lies. But you see, a leader ultimately produces his own kind. When you have a leader who lies, everybody else that follows them, they also lie. So we are subjected to lies. But as it were, time has a way of curing situations, because lies run faster, but usually the truth will catch up, and the truth has caught up with the UPND, and hence the demand by the Zambian people that PF must come back. And that demand has included President Edgar Lungu also to come and rescue the Zambian people. Whether or not that decision has been made now, that's a secondary matter, because there are still processes that the party will go through, because there are laws not only in Zambia but also in Patriotic Front. So there is going to be a process, I can tell you, before the election of 2026, to which leadership will emerge. In this case, if the Zambian people, as it were, continue on the trajectory they have said, the position is very clear. We will not impose President Edgar Chagwa. The demands by the Zambian people is what we are going to answer to, not the demands of those who we know are opponents of Patriotic Front. The opinion you are advancing, actually, meant to be honest, is an opinion of UPND. They are so scared of Edgar Chagwa that they keep on running a narrative, no, Edgar had his time. Why are they so concerned about who we choose as a candidate? If we choose Edgar Chagwa, it's us who have chosen. And it is up to the Zambian people to make a decision, whether or not they'll give him a chance or not. But as it stands, he stands a greater chance. That's how Nakachinda is not sleeping. On every occasion, even on Labor Day, where we expect him to talk about labor matters, he's saying, don't vote PF, don't vote Edgar Chagwa. Why do you think HH is not sleeping? Why do you think HH says, don't allow Edgar to stand? It's because he's dead scared. The Zambian people know Edgar performed beyond, he cannot be compared to anybody as president in terms of infrastructure, in terms of running the economy afloat, even during the, challenging times. One drought let's declare a disaster. How many droughts and situations did Edgar Lungu face, including COVID-19? He never declared a disaster. He navigated the country through that whole process. Even you, I'm sure, you are convinced that Edgar is better than Nakachinda Hichilema. And you said presidential candidates.
For the presidential candidate.
Yeah. Well, they did colleagues within the party did express interest to run for the presidency, because President Edgar Chagwa had obviously gone on leave, and they had indicated that the process can begin within the party to which a successor can come. But as it were, the circumstances along the way demanded for his return to active politics, and he is president of the party. So there's no vacuum whatsoever. There's no vacancy in the office of president. There is a president. So those colleagues who expressed interest, they are democratic enough. They are Democrats themselves, and they did accept the fact that now that the substantive president has come back into office, there's no need for us to proceed with those aspirations. I think in the near future, when it is opened up, they will be given an opportunity to still continue, pursue their aspirations. For now, there is a president in office. There is no such thing as aspiring, presidential candidates. Repeat your question.
The first one was concerned about the issue of the cadres, the issue of the then the last one was about
Okay.
what you're going to do when you're given a chance.
But as it were, you've seen that regardless of the provocation, that the UPND, and threats, the UPND tried to, to occasion against us, we have restrained ourselves. I was on the Copper Belt and I was saying to Mr. Mirupi and Mr. Mwariteta that the proposal for violence that they are making, especially the ones they made in Mongo, is just that, as it were, we took a process of introspection through, remember the process we undertook after losing election, which was a post-mortem process. We went to the Zambian people and they told us some of the things we need to change, and we committed to Zambian people that will change in those areas that made them feel that we did not, live up to the standard they wanted. But if we, I was saying on the Copper Belt that Mr. Mulupi must not, dare PF, because an oppressor determines the reaction of the oppressed. If you oppress people to the extent that the only option they have is to fight back, you don't have to blame them. There's an African saying, or is it Nigerian saying, that even when a goat is pursued and it has no way of escape, even it can bite. But I can assure you the issue of cadres, so far up to today, you have to give us kudos in terms of how our cadres are, managing themselves and are conducting themselves. And the process of reform has continued. When you come here, you're being received as if you're at a hotel. That's how much we have been able to reform. Go beyond even the expectation of people. Thank you very much.
I think we are done. And besides, just an additional part is we have the manifesto that is running. Remember, we had a manifesto that is running beyond 2021 to 2026, which has clearly indicated what our programs will be beyond 2021. So infrastructure was created, the roads were done. These guys are employing people on our behalf. An issue which we would have done ourselves after finishing the infrastructure. And they are bragging that they are the ones who are doing it when we know that we are the ones who set the path for that. Secretary General, I want to thank you for speaking to the media. Reverend Sumaili, our two members of the Central Committee were with us this morning. We have come to the end of our briefing. This morning we'll continue to interact. As and when a program is indicated to me through the Secretary General, we'll be calling you the same way we have called you this morning. I will allow the Secretary General and his entourage to take leave, and then we'll do our house rules, our housekeeping rules.